Welcome back. We're good to go. Starting out with expectations in 2015. Now, the previous year has come and gone with its challenges, travails, and successes. A new year has dawned, brimming with hope for a better life for everyone, both the ruled and the rulers. Amongst the challenges that the nation had to contend with were the Boko Haram insurgency that had the nation held hostage for a while, incessant bombings here and there, the over 200 Chibok girls that were abducted and in captivity for almost 250 days. But besides the insurgency, the 2015 general elections remains one of the nation's major issues, even in 2014. The concluded primaries, disparities, contentions here and there across the country and across the political parties. Now, with just 6 weeks to the general elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission has a lot to do ensuring that everything goes well. Now, you might say, you're talking about expectations in 2015. That happens to be like one of the major things that everybody across board is talking about, besides the economy, besides daily living.
That's the elections.
The elections. Well, we're going to look at all of this and have three gentlemen in the house. Ikechi Dolwe, a civil rights advocate of Act Now. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, Act Now. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Sonia Oni is a member of the editorial board Nation newspaper and the editorial paid editor. Thank you for coming. Mr. Oscar Odiwe is a legal practitioner and a social commentator.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, you're welcome. Let me start with asking you, what are your expectations for 2015? I'll begin with you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Number one, for you to have the right expectations, you must be in the right frame of mind. I'm saying this to the Nigerians. Let us first of all congratulate ourselves that we've done 16 years stretch of democracy. And what has come with it? Lots of freedom. We talk more. We're doing good. So what are now my expectations for 2015? I believe Mr. President captured it. Mr. President said very clearly that 2015 is a year he's going to address the economy. It's a year he's going to build on the foundations they have laid. It's a year he is prepared to rout insurgency. It's a year that there will be election practically everywhere else. And I think it makes sense that I should believe my president. So we already have an expectation, but as a person, what do I expect? I truly would like to see an improvement in the foundation laid in power supply. I think a right foundation was laid, in which case now we expect more megawatts to be produced. I'd like to see more of food sufficiency. If you notice, cost of food has not really changed. And more people were eating this Christmas. I'm also expecting that by Easter we should be eating too, the same way, as long as whatever they're doing in agriculture continues. The expectations are many. I also expect to be more secured.
Okay.
And I could go on and on.
Okay, let me ask Mr. Chidolwe. Mr. Mudiwe said the president has said he's going to look into the insecurity issues. More, he's going to talked about the economy. For you, he is believing what the president has said, and of course, as citizens, we should. What would be your own expectations for 2015?
Well, before we got in, you guys were talking about the resolutions. People, and Nigeria is, yes, we're a secular state, but we equally have a lot of religious issues that built around it. So, and we wake up with hope. I mean, the message, I'll say the government, one of the things that they preach is hope. So as an advocate, a civil liberty advocate, I am hopeful. And I am hopeful, just like he said, I'm hopeful that, like we speak more, that every Nigeria should not lose this voice that we've kind of earned. I'm hopeful that Nigerians will understand what this liberty means. You know, if you had an opportunity of living a few years in the US, and the liberty allows you to tell the president anything. He doesn't have to like it. The citizens have that power because it has to be power given to you by the people. So in Nigeria too, I like that newfound freedom that everybody can wake up and say, the president, I don't like what you're doing, blah. You know, because maybe the language may be too hard, but I don't want a situation that tomorrow I'm going to be, you know, scared about, can I talk to the guy there? What will happen if I speak against, you know? So I want the hope that should continue in my mind. I want that liberty to continue to be strengthened, and let every facet of our democracy have that kind of voice. Any agency that is independent, let it be fully independent. I don't want to see government meddle with any institution. The things that are in private hands, no meddling. The way you unbundle power. Me, I'm an engineer. I've been in the oil industry from the US down here. I want you to unbundle oil and gas. I want things to be unbundled. You know, let government stick with policies. Make in education, I don't want you to like, this is my responsibility as, you know, education. No, policy. Unbundle every facet. Government should be, you know, stay with the policy, stay with the regulation, stay with, you know, just like, you know, I think 2015 should be building great institutions. So the next 4 years should be about foundation has been laid, so it has to be building. Let's build great institutions. If you've done this, any person that is thinking about leadership, and you have to think about, it has to be, you know, because, you know, he mentioned about we having, you know, an uninterrupted 16 years. You know, and I equally think, I mean, that sometimes I go into this pro-government mode, and I'm like, that liberty that people enjoy now, because we are used to being gagged. Nigerians are used to being gagged. You don't talk. So now you have this liberty and you interpret it for weakness. That guy must be weak. You know, because every Nigerian is used to, I mean, you don't talk before, and now you can talk. He must be weak to give me that. Fella said, you know, human rights is my property. Now, because somebody's humble to a fault, say, he must be clueless. You know, so you know, my expectation is that Nigerians understand what this means and we interpret it properly.
Okay, so yeah, let's hear your own side of it.
Let me start fundamentally that on the premise of expectation. The first is that yes, there's a lot of tension out there. In fact, the quality of debate has so much gone down that you begin to wonder if actually we are not already at war. But let me also say in a very, very serious and a very fundamental point that if there is anything that gives me hope about this country, it's almost infinite capacity to pull from the brinks. You know, sometimes you think that Nigeria will take it to that point, will just tip over, and then you see some kind of signs of moderation, some rallying now together to save the situation. So I think in 2015, I am not one of those I'm an incurable optimist. I believe that Nigeria will make it, contrary to what people will say. Now, as to some of the things that have been said about the promises, about the trajectory of governance, I am afraid to say I do not share in any serious premise that things will necessarily change if we have not seen any. You see, I look at the very basic institutions. Yes, my friend here talked about some of the reforms in the power sector. I like them. They're very fundamental. They are key to unleashing the creative energies of our people. But then you must know, in an environment where the institutions are fundamentally weak, governments all over the world do not simply just step back. Now, we just had the power sector unbundled recently, and then you would think that the sector, such a sector that has been primed to go, will just take off. But what do we have? Going back to the same government asking for guarantees for whatever loans they want to take. I'm sure your experiences in the last few weeks will tell you that indeed we do not really have a private sector in this country that is truly working. So in other words, you still need a lot of government muscle to get things moving. And I do not believe in the luxury, for instance, that government should step back in many of those things. Yes, it's important, yes, that government begins to slowly divest, create institutions. But then, can we realistically say, for instance, that the government, we've arrived in a situation whereby just leave the market forces to take over things? It is not going to happen. Then, the security sector, I think, again, I am also optimistic. Somehow, Nigerians are beginning to actually respond to it, the challenges. The other day, just before Christmas, I traveled to the village. What I saw in the village actually was scary. Everywhere, it's like every kilometer, dotted with vigilantes, clad in all manners of uniforms. And I asked myself, what's going on here? Finally, Nigerians are beginning to wake up to the need to take their personal securities very seriously. In your neighborhoods now, you have all manners of security outposts and things like that. I think the government now needs to move in to actually begin to look at the consumer aspects of it, to create an environment where we now have multi-level, level of policing, so that the people in the community can actually have some control over how their environment are governed. So I think we are beginning to see some of these signs. Not because government is doing it. You see, I also heard my brother talk about the freedoms. These are not freedoms that people give. People forget the fact that even these technologies, some of the technologies that we have, are actually the key drivers of these freedoms. So in other words, no matter how much you guard somebody, how many people can you guard, for instance, when at the touch of a phone, you can distribute your messages.
Social media
is all over the place. So I do not think we need to celebrate government for that. It's simply some of the things, some of the dividends of technology. On the whole, I think this year is going to be a very interesting year. It's going to be a year that people will expect so much, but at the end of the day, all the things they expect will not come to pass. All the very negative predictions will not come to pass. Simply because Nigerians, come to think of it, everywhere you go, I always look at it. People say, oh, let's break up this country, break up this thing and do these things. Where are the boundaries? Just a few minutes ago, somebody was talking about his name, giving an example of his name, and then you have such names across the other states pronounced in slightly different ways. It's all over the country. It's all over the country. You see, we are so much bonded that whether we can fight and judge, at the end of the day, we will still sit down as Nigerians. And one of the things we must love about Nigerians is that we love life. And so, ultimately, we will just find that at the end of the year, we will say, praise God, 2016 will be better.
Okay, Mr. Umudiwe, the president said it's a year that he's looking forward to routing the Boko Haram. And he said that we are re-equipping and repositioning our armed forces to enhance their capacity to win the ongoing war against terror. Some people would say, okay, if the Chibok girls for over 260-something days, they've been away, and we can't bring them back, how are we going to do this? How are we going to, bring down Boko Haram?
First of all, thank you for that question, but this is the first time I saw Mr. President talking with a lot more confidence. Talking from his heart. Meaning, we've had this Boko Haram and insurgents for quite some time. Some people